I know we just completed the NFL franchise and transition tag deadline, but no shortage of topics to discuss in the league. Case in point, Raiders star Maxx Crosby. Trade chatter continues to intensify this week. Athletic reporting today the team willing to work on a trade according to general managers across the league. Let's welcome in former Raiders CEO Amy Trask, who's an analyst for us here at CBS Sports. So, Amy, a week ago, Raiders GM John Spytek said he expected Crosby to stay with the team this season, but he was willing to listen to trade. So it looks like that's happening. Thoughts, given your experience, giving us behind the curtain and taking us behind there, as they say?
Well, it is not mutually exclusive to both listen to and, by the way, to solicit offers for a trade, but at the same time, try to work things out to retain the player. And that's what organizations do, Tommy. They play both hands, so to speak. They want to, and in this instance, I sure as heck hope they want to retain the player. They should want to retain Maxx, but they're also going to listen to offers and see what can be gained in terms of a trade. But I am absolutely, unequivocally behind the concept of find a way to work things out with Maxx Crosby, retain him in a manner that makes him feel good about staying with the organization. And I've spoken to this point before on HQ a number of times. There has been an environment at the Raiders where people are operating in the shadows. And people assume when I say that I'm speaking to Tom Brady, but my comments aren't limited to Tom. We know what his role is. I've spoken about Jim Gray's role, orchestrating things behind the scenes. We now have news about Alex Guerrero acting as Tom's, and this isn't my word, this is the word of some in the organization, as his mole. Well, here's something that I don't know has been shared a lot. In negotiating his agreement to join the Raiders, Clint Kubiak made very clear that all of this shadow operation has got to end. It has got to be a collaborative, communicative environment in which nobody's operating in the showers. And that should make Maxx feel better about staying with the organization, and I hope it does. Tommy, do you remember when we were kids and we would not get along with a brother or a sister or a friend, and our parents would say, go work it out? Mm-hmm. Well, that's what the Raiders need to do. They need to go work it out and find a way to retain Maxx happily. I know they have the contractual right to retain him. Find a way to work the relationship out so everyone is pulling their oars in the same direction.
I'm with you, and it's interesting when you shed some of the light to the Kubiak situation that within those parameters of the building, it gets out league-wide, and then he feels the need to actually have that be part of his deal to come to Las Vegas. So that's quite interesting to learn that here on the show. So we just got done with the franchise and transition tag deadline. We do have the draft coming up, but in between, of course, is free agency, Amy. So we've come up with a few talking points here when it comes to the Raiders and really every team. But what about having a plan? What does this exactly mean from a front office perspective?
Tommy, I once had a terrible accident coming off a horse. And when I got up off the ground and I was alive and we made sure the horse was fine, someone walked up to me and said, Amy, you've got to have a plan. Now, mind you, Tommy, it was an 8-year-old who told me that. So I learned then you have got to have a plan, and teams have got to have a plan going into free agency. Or put it this way, if they do not have a plan that includes both offense and defense. Offense, who do you want to acquire in free agency? Defense, who do you want to retain that others may come after in free agency? And a plan that includes both long-term and short-term analysis. Well, then you've got trouble. As that 8-year-old said, you got to have a plan.
Which is interesting because this particular offseason, there's a lot of cap space available to the Raiders here. So when it comes to coordinating everything, how do they go about that?
Well, that's a great question, Tommy, and you're absolutely right. Cap space, whether you have it as they do or you don't and you need to find it, is very important. So too is cash management and cash flow. There are some team owners who are going to put stricter limits on their organizations as to what they can spend in cash. So everybody always thinks cap. But let me tell you, cash matters more to some organizations than to others, and so does cash flow more to some organizations than others. So you've got to have a coordinated approach with your scouts, your player personnel department, your coaches, your cap management department, and those who are overseeing cash and cash flow.
Those are a lot of departments, and if I may follow up to that, Amy, is there a challenging department more than others to coordinate like you're saying here?
Well, I can tell you during my years with the Raiders, and it was very, very, very different then, not only for the Raiders, but for a lot of teams than it is now. Cash and cash flow were a very, very, very big factor. Many people point to cap management as a big factor. The cap is a method of accounting. You've got tax accounting, you've got GAAP accounting, you've got cap accounting. So you can wiggle and jiggle your cap space if you are doing it wisely. Ultimately, I think when it comes to free agency, when it comes to the draft, you want to know that you have a very, very good scouting department.
Life of a CEO. What about be ready to go?
Okay. During my final years in the league was when they adopted the legal tampering period. It used to be ready to go when free agency started, except everybody tampered before free agency started. Then they instituted legal tampering. When they instituted legal tampering, a number of us picked up the phone, called one another around the league and said, okay, legal tampering, so all that means is we're going to back up when tampering starts. So now tampering won't start before free agency, tampering will start before legal free agency. And Tommy, tampering happens. I will share with you quickly a story from my years in the league. Free agency was due to start in about 7 hours or so. I walked through the locker room, the seating area, just inside the locker room, and there was a player who was due to become a free agent in 7 hours. Only he was 3,000 miles away and had to fly or travel when it took car time, plane time, car time. It was about 6 or 7 hours to get him there. So let's do the math. Free agency didn't start for about 7 hours, 6 or 7 hours. He had to take 6 or 7 hours to get there. You getting where I'm going with this? I walk in, I see this player sitting there, and I just stared. I said, hello. I welcomed him, and I went up to our player personnel department, and I said to the man in charge, dude, could you at least have sent him to a hotel so that when he got off the plane, after we tampered with him to get him here, he wasn't sitting in our facility, but he was sitting at least in a hotel, and we could allegedly not drive him here till free agency started. Anyway, the statute of limitations has run, so that's a story I love when I walked in and saw the guy sitting there, before he should have been.
That's a great story. Yeah, could you not have found neutral ground? You basically have incriminated us, and we're going to be in big trouble there. That's a great story, Amy. Last but not least, is something that the Raiders are dealing with, the fundamental decision. Yes, they have the top overall pick, which we all think is going to be Fernando Mendoza, but they have a lot of holes to fill. What are the conversations and decision-making exercises like when it comes to, through the draft of free agencies, to help with the rebuild?
Well, one of the fundamental issues, well, there's two fundamental issues. One is, are you preparing a team for a long-term look, or are you looking simply at immediacy? In other words, is your number one focus win now, or is your primary focus let's build for the long term? In Al's final years, we received a lot of criticism from people saying, you guys aren't looking at a long-term approach. You're doing everything for the short term. You're doing everything to win now. You need to look at the long-term approach. Well, let me tell you something. When someone knows they have a very, very little time to live, long-term is a very different look than what it might be if you think you've got decades and decades and decades for which to plan. So some teams are looking at things on a short-term basis, some teams look at them on a long-term basis. The other issue is, do you believe more in free agency than you believe in the draft? I happen to like the Rams approach. FM picks. The Rams have done remarkably well trading, I believe it is 9 of their last 10 first-round picks, and they've done just fine doing that. So, whether you say, oh my gosh, sorry. Whether you in all my years on CBS Sports, I've never actually done that. And I apologize to whoever's in charge of the bleep button. But when the Rams say F them picks, I agree.
That's all right, Amy. I'm going to help chip in to pay for whatever fine we may get here, but we're going to be okay.
It's on me.
No, you're good. Keep the stories coming because they are fantastic. That is the executive take you will not get anywhere else but right here on CBS Sports. Amy, thank you very much. A reminder, you can go over Catch HQ, streaming for free at 24/7 all the time on the app or your smart TV.